Welcome to the Vibrantly You podcast. We're your hosts, Megan Martineau.
And Caitlin Cipriano. In this podcast, we talk about fitness and nutrition on your motherhood journey. Whether you are trying to conceive, pregnant, postpartum, or beyond, you are welcome here.
Nothing is off limits, and our goal is to support you in this important season of life so that you can feel vibrantly you. As a reminder, this information is not medical advice. Please see the show notes for more details.
Welcome back to the Vibrantly You podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a very tender and important topic. So I am going to put a trigger warning right at the beginning of this episode. We are going to be discussing pregnancy loss today, specifically about nutrition and how you can nourish your body after experiencing a loss. So if you are listening to this today and you have gone through the experience, we just want to take a moment and say you are not alone here. This conversation is really about how you can support your body as you go through this and heal, but so that you have some education around how you can, do this for yourself. So we will dive right in.
Yes, so this is an important topic to both Caitlin and I. I personally have been through this experience myself, and working in this field for the last 5 years, both Caitlin and I have also worked with clients who have gone through pregnancy loss. And it's not only an intensely emotional experience, but it is also a physical experience, and not just the physical experience of the miscarriage, but also going through the hormonal changes, that hormonal roller coaster, dealing with tissue repair, blood loss, and nutrition is a really important part of healing and recovery from pregnancy loss that we just don't see people talking about. And this can be really helpful with the physical recovery, but also just with your overall emotional healing and well-being. So this was something that we wanted to talk about, and hopefully if you are somebody that is going through this, you find this episode supportive and helpful in your healing journey. So Caitlin, let's just jump into some really foundational things from a nutrition standpoint of what you can do during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like you said, this is just something that we don't see talked about, especially just from this nutrition piece. And again, not that, this is going to take away like your experience, your grief, what you're going through, but, just sort of like staying on top of, trying to take care of yourself during this really difficult time can be very impactful, when you can do it through a nice, like, gentle way. So the basics are what really matter here. So making sure like you're staying hydrated. I'm going to talk about appetite a little bit later, but just like trying to eat regularly when you can and including foods that are going to be comforting, but also like replenishing to what you have just experienced and gone through. And so, this is not a time to be like, okay, let me just like get right back or get right back to like trying to conceive if that's what your like goal is. Like, really take some time to focus on healing and recovering. And again, in a way that is like restorative to yourself, to your strength, to your energy levels. That is what is going to like help you again, like physically feel a little bit better as I think you're navigating the emotional side of things.
Yeah, I think it's it's such a hard time because a lot of times people don't even know what you're going through, right? And unless you are much further along in your pregnancy, it your body is unchanged from the outside, right? And so sometimes I think it's easy to forget that your body is going through so much physically and needs like this nourishment right now. Um, yeah, I just think like the societal lens of pregnancy loss is not helpful when it comes to like recovering and healing because it's kind of like, oh, well, like this happened, move on, don't talk about it. Like people are weird about how people grieve during this time. And so I think as someone who's going through this experience, you can kind of gaslight yourself, right? And be like, oh, well, it's over. Like I wasn't that far along. And you try to just like move on with your life and like skip all of this stuff. And again, I totally understand this because I went through this as well, but I do think it's really important to just try to slow down and really focus on, yeah, like nourishing your body and trying to just focus on healing, like you said. And I think these are some really impactful things and things that are easy too to try to add in so it's not like overwhelming um, to just help you feel better.
Yeah, and so I'll give some examples of some things that are really helpful as you navigate what's going on during this time. So, uh, while not everyone may experience a lot of blood loss, some people do. And so, iron-rich foods are really key here for replenishing that and your energy levels. So, these can be either hemi or non-hemi sources of iron. So, hemi being from your animal proteins, and then non-hemi being from your plant-based sources. And if you're prioritizing some of those plant-based sources, please make sure that you're pairing them with a vitamin C source so that you're really getting like the optimal amount from that. So again, any like lean meats that you enjoy, beans, lentils, leafy greens are all great sources of iron. And then just protein in general, making sure that you're prioritizing protein in your meals. And this is for specifically tissue repair during this time is going to be really helpful. But, again, just in general, for satiety, for energy levels, keeping your blood sugar more balanced. Um, Healthy fats are really important here too for hormones. Again, there's going to be a fluctuation of hormones going on, so making sure that you're including things like avocado, nuts, seeds. If you like salmon, for some omegas is fantastic. Um, and then again, if we're thinking about our like tissues and inflammation, we want to try to add in like, variety of fruits and vegetables, whatever you like and enjoy and can tolerate. If you are experiencing any digestive system symptoms during this time, trying to have more like cooked uh, vegetables is going to be a little bit easier on your digestive system. And also, I just think like more warm, comforting meals during this time phrase are going to feel better for you. So doing more cooked versus raw is fantastic. And then lastly, like hydration. Like again, especially if there was blood loss, we really want to make sure that you are hydrated. So you can also add like electrolytes or coconut water, broths into the mix. Meg and I both love the Ultima electrolytes, so I'll leave a link for those. But really making sure that, again, you're just focusing on some like foundational pieces that you feel like are doable during this time frame.
So I know you mentioned like warm, comforting foods, like, and I know that emotions are a big part of food, right? So what about for
Yeah,
people who are just like, I don't want to eat healthy, give me the tub of ice cream, give me Annie's mac and cheese, like grilled cheese and
totally.
soup, like more comforting meals that maybe aren't
Yeah.
necessarily like nutrient dense.
Food is so emotional, right? Like there's a whole layer to that. And I don't think that we have to be like dismissive of craving comfort foods during periods of grief. Like we can allow ourselves to bring those things those things in. Um, Sometimes people like don't have much of an appetite at all. Had clients
That was me.
experience that. Um, and like that's normal too. So there may be different ends of the spectrum. Sometimes you may feel like you don't have any appetite. Sometimes you may feel like, again, you might just want to sit with a tub of ice cream. And I really think that that's okay. Like we can give ourselves permission to like let that come in. Um, and it really is like, again, doing the best that you can. If you are feeling like you said, that like no appetite, you could try some smaller, like more frequent meals that might make it feel easier. Um, if you're again on that other end where you're really kind of feeling like you're needing to use food as like coping, mechanism, I would say like again, that is okay. See if you can try to like recognize though like some of those patterns, and where you, as you progress through your feelings, you may be able to find some small shifts in pieces. Um, Again, I think this is a time to not get too caught up in things and think of like your meals more as an act of like self-care and
Yeah.
nourishment. And so like that might be, like you said, soup and grilled cheese. It might be like that you find a new favorite like tea with honey. I think little like rituals can actually bring a lot of comfort during that time. Um, I know this is about nutrition, but I would definitely like urge people to also seek like a counselor or a therapist that is like specifically trained in this area, because I think they help so much in terms of like navigating a lot of these topics.
Yeah, and we can drop in the show notes too, just some different resources for navigating pregnancy loss. And there's a great database for providers who are trained in perinatal mood. So I will definitely make sure that that is included in the show notes. But yeah, I like what you're saying too about just like, it's okay to give in to the cravings. Like, I think it's important to remember too, like, this is survival for a lot of people. This period of grieving and mourning is like you're surviving right now. So just like doing what you can. And I do think making sure you're eating is really the most important thing.
Yeah.
So whatever that looks like. What are your thoughts on like continuing with prenatal vitamins during this time or any like potential supplements to add in to be supportive?
Yeah, so I think that uh to certainly check with your provider on this, but I think continuing with a prenatal vitamin would be a good thing to continue, regardless of if you're trying to conceive again or not. Just because after, again, like we talked about, there are micronutrients that the body needs to help with like tissue repair and healing and energy, things like folate, iron, and vitamin D that should be in your prenatal. So continuing with that, at least for, I would say, 30 to 60 days after, and continuing beyond that if you are, thinking about trying again in the future, just continuing on your prenatal vitamin. And then depending on what is in the prenatal vitamin, if there is like not iron, because not all prenatals have iron in them. If you did experience, quite a significant blood loss, that you talk to your doctor about iron supplementation. And then same thing with the vitamin D, like I mentioned, some prenatals have them, some don't. If yours doesn't, I would probably look into an additional vitamin D if it does not have it in there.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I know that this episode is mostly on nutrition and nourishment, but just to throw in a little movement piece as well. because I know for a lot of people, movement is just helpful for overall mental health. So I would definitely look to your provider, make sure you're cleared to do any exercise because depending on how your pregnancy ended. Like, did you have a DNC? Was this later on in pregnancy? Did you have to actually give birth? Depending on circumstances, your recommendations for exercise change. So definitely check in with your doctor. But if you are cleared to do any sort of exercise, I definitely recommend just like checking in with your body right now. Probably not doing anything like super high intensity because we do want to focus on healing right now, but just moving your body in a way that feels good, that helps you feel strong and capable, I think is really important during this time. And like remembering that your body is not broken and, you know, I know I already said this, but like you are strong, you are capable. And I do think movement just helps with those feelings. And also, movement is a really like somatic experience, right? So, like, it can also help you just move through some of those heavier feelings of grief and it can just be really, sorry, my voice here today. It can just be really powerful in this time when things just feel really challenging.
I think, like you said, too, the somatic experience, but also being able to like reconnect to your body. So, like you talk about, even just starting with like the 360 breathing and like reconnecting to that core and womb space in a way that feels good for you.
Absolutely. And that also does promote blood flow and healing. So that can be really impactful during this time and something that's lower effort, but has a big payoff and a lot of benefits.
Well, thank you. I think this is a good, like, little all-encompassing space to start with this. And just know that, like, this experience is not linear by any means. You may have days or weeks that are better than others, but nourishing your body and, like Meg said, like just starting to add some movement back in is a really nice way to honor the process. So, give yourself permission to like rest when you need to grieve when you need to, but listen like to your body and know that you're still like worthy of this kind of like self-care and nourishment and compassion. So, and if you need extra support, like Meg said, we're going to put some resources down below, and know that you are not alone.